Okay, guys, I'm expecting a good girlfriend to come by, but I want to talk to you about Section 8 real estate investing. So there's a question that I get asked every time I go speak at any kind of conference or event. People always ask me about my best and worst Section 8 real estate investing experience. So let's go ahead and talk about that now. I'll get ready for my friend's arrival. It's gonna make a quick salad for her. I am not a professional cook, chef. I'm just a mom who does what I can do. Okay. All right. If you don't know, I am Ashley Lorraine, M.Ed, also known as the Section 8 lady. And today we're going to talk about my best and worst Section 8 investments. So there is one that I talk about more than any. It is my very first buy and hold property. So this was about maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Before that, I was a wholesaler. If you're familiar with wholesalers, our job is to just find properties at a really good deal. We get them under contract, and then we sell our assignable interest to an investor who ultimately buys the property. And in my career at that time, I was a school principal, right? So very professional, master's degree, pretty much only around other people who are, highly educated. So you just assume everyone is like you. So when I went to buy my first buy and hold property, I bought it in a city where I grew up because I just felt like I had friends and family there who could have my back. Whereas most of my wholesaling was in Texas, about 1,500 miles away. So I linked up with a wholesaler in Ohio, and he sent me over the deals that he had. And there was a house that I really, really liked. Didn't think it was going to need a whole lot of work, and I wanted to get it Section 8 ready. I already knew I wanted Section 8 to be my exit. There was no question about that. My mentor has been doing Section 8 for 30 years now. Anyway, I digress. So the wholesaler sends me over the property. I love it. So of course, I signed the agreement, and the agreement is then sent to the title company. At this point, remember, I'm a school principal, so I have a very busy job. I also have 2 children, and I'm like 8 months pregnant. So to celebrate our first buy and hold property, we wanted to go up north and just be a part of the process, be a part of the rehab, really get our hands dirty. So I had 2 weeks for Christmas break to go up there. Super pregnant, by the way. Couldn't fly because I was too pregnant. So we drove our family of 4 up all the way up to Ohio. And we were like checking out contractors, getting bids from them, viewing the property. We were so proud of it. And we wanted to be up there at the closing table, to close it out. So we arrived on the day we were supposed to close, and the wholesaler's like, oh, closing got delayed, blah, 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 which is normal, right? I have been a wholesaler for a while, so I know closings do get delayed. No problem. Meanwhile, we're still getting bids, for contractors and things like that. So a day or two passes, and I'm reaching out to the wholesaler like, hey, we're up here to close. Like we only have 2 weeks to get this house rent ready. We got to get started now. I was like, oh, don't worry about it. We ended up changing title companies, but they said they're going to transfer the file and the title commitment, so don't worry. So like, cool. So we press for time. We find a contractor that we like. And we're like, yeah, just go ahead and let's start getting the repairs done. Let's start getting the house ready. We're going to be closing in a couple of days anyway. No problem. So now a week and a half passes. We're still not closing. We're talking to this wholesaler, every day. We're hearing all these excuses. And by this time, most of the house is done and rehabbed. So we have put in maybe about $20,000 or $25,000 towards getting this house rehabbed in cash. We didn't do any loans or anything like that. We wanted to, I like debt free. Oh man, so I think you already know where this story is going. Long story short, the house never closes, but the house is now fully rehabbed, but we don't own it, right? Because it still belongs to the seller. All the wholesaler could say was, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I usually do a better job than this. What happened was, there ended up being about $80,000 worth of liens on this property. Now, the property itself isn't worth more than $40,000 or $50,000, right? We bought it from the wholesaler for $10K. We put $25K into it. I mean, the house that's all it was worth, right? So it could not possibly cover this $80,000 lien on it. I'm pregnant, I'm freaking out. I used our entire life savings to take a risk on this. And now we have a house that we fully rehab that belongs to somebody else. Whew, thank God I had experience as a wholesaler, and thank God I don't mind reaching out for help. So I called my mentor, help, oh my God. Trying to buy this house. Now the title company won't close it. It has $80,000 worth of liens, but I have already rehabbed this house. All my life savings are in it. If this seller sees the house, there's no way they're going to sell it to us now. And they can't because of all the liens. My mentor points me in the right direction of a few people to talk to. Oh man, every time I talk about this, I start getting a little anxious. So I had to become a researcher, right? I had to figure it out. So I did get the full title report and I saw where the liens came from. So some of the liens were like mortgage lien, and there was like unemployment liens and things like that. Then I found out that this house was actually probated. It was owned by an LLC of a real estate investor. And when this real estate investor passed away, he left properties to his grandchildren. Well, all she knew was that her grandfather passed and she owned some properties, and that wholesaler was going to help her to sell the properties off. Wholesaler did give me contact information for the seller. She was a young girl, had just inherited properties that she essentially didn't want. Great. So the way we ended up doing this was, number one, I had to learn about liens. So I learned that some liens follow the house, other liens follow the person. Then I had to reach out to the probate attorney who handled the case to get all of the paperwork that was related to this property. Thank God the attorney did send it over. I just sent over our purchase agreement and proof, hey, I'm buying this house, which was happening. And in that paperwork, we found a mortgage release that the biggest lien on the property had been paid off. The release had just never been filed. So I'm like, oh, thank God. Then we found out that another lien that was on it follows the person, not the house. So I know this information, right? So now I call the seller and I'm like, look, I was supposed to buy your house. It came back with $80,000 worth of lien. So if you still want me to close, you got to come up with this 80K. I don't have it. She's like, I don't have it. I'm in college. I didn't even want these houses. I'm all the way in Miami. I don't know what to do either. So I was like, look, you can go ahead and we can do a self-close. I had to quickly learn how to do that. So I think I just bought somebody's course real quick. And I also bought a course on sub 2, right? So I was like, just deed the house over to me. We can just do a quick claim and I'll be responsible for the liens. But I can't pay you any money for this house. You technically owe me. And she was like, no, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. I would never have, gotten to a transaction. Had I known that, I wasn't being malicious. I just didn't know. Yes, here, I'll sign the house over to you. Take it. And so if you're connecting the dots here, very quickly, number one, I learned that I could self-close since the title company didn't want to, that I can take over those liens subject to, and that most of those liens, all of the liens actually ended up being taken off because it was just a release for a mortgage that wasn't filed, and it was a lien that followed the person, not the house. So once she deeded that property over to me, I owned the house, free and clear, paid $0 for it, and all the liens were released. I did have the 25K in that got it Section 8 ready. But I was like, wait a minute, what, did I just make something up? I literally thought I made up subject to until I bought the course after, and I realized it already existed. But I thought I made it up. I was like, I'm gonna buy every house like this. I'll just buy every house that has a bunch of these types of liens on it, and I'll figure it out and get a whole bunch of houses for $0. Anyway, she called back and she was like, hey, Ashley, I just found out I actually have another property and it's probably in the same situation. It's probably gonna have liens and stuff on it. I just thought I'd give it a shot and call you to see if you were willing to take that one on too. I don't want to put too much on you, but if you can, it will really help me out. So by this time I saw how well that first house did. I was like, oh, I don't know, girl, you're asking a lot. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to pay you anything for it. She was like, no, I know. If you could just take the liens like you did last time, like, I'm good. I was like, all right, I guess I can do it. But I realized I was like, yes. So a week later, got that property too for $0. That one was in better condition. Also needed still about 25K to get it ready. Got it for $0. That was my very first buy and hold real life, like real estate investing transaction. I got 2 properties for $0, subject to liens that I knew how to release. put in some money in cash to get it rehabbed. So I own those two houses free and clear still to this day. And Section 8, think about it. I got the houses for $0. We'll do the first house, $0. I put 25K in, so I'm all in at 25K. And Section 8 was paying me $13.50 a month for that house. I've had that house for 7 years. So you can do the math, 12 times 7, and then that number times 13.50. There's no mortgage, right? So I'm only just paying myself back for the 25K that I invested in the rehab, and, taxes and insurance, which is not much on a house that's that inexpensive. So, whew. And then of course the second house as well. That one I think only got $1,200 a month from Section 8, but also got it for $0. Only the money that I invested in the rehab was what I paid myself back. And same for 7 years, $1,200. You can do the math there, and it's still making me money to this day. So I say that to say that was my worst real estate investment experience, but it also ended up being my best real estate investment experience. And this is why I tell people embrace failure, okay? That failure taught me so much that it opened my eyes up to an entirely other niche of real estate, which is how I got so good at subject to mortgage takeovers, owner financing, taking over liens. If that had not happened, I would not have been forced to learn how to do it. So listen, embrace those failures. But my biggest failure became my biggest win, and I am still winning on those properties to this day. All right, y'all. If you like what you saw here and want to learn more, there is a link in the description. Please like and subscribe, by the way. But the link in the description is just going to give you like this really inexpensive class on the 5 steps to invest in Section 8, just so you have some background knowledge. That way, when you're watching people like me or other people you're following, and we're speaking about like higher order concepts, you have the foundation, a knowledge base